Hi YouTube friends, I'm back. I finally got new cameras, so I'm really happy I can start recording again, and it is so much easier with this new camera. I went through 4 cameras trying to find the right one that would give me the quality and the time frame in which I could record. So yay, I'm so excited. Anyway, today I am doing a pink peony, or to some, a peony. So I'm going to have a number of videos within this. So I don't know for sure how many parts it's going to have to it right now. I want to keep it around 35 minutes at the very longest, so you don't have to sit and watch it for hours and hours, unless you want to. So if you will stay with me, we'll get going. Oh, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you in a bit. This is the peony I am going to be doing, and I've got a pretty good photograph here. This is just on paper, so it doesn't look glossy or anything. And what I've done was I've traced it just because it's so time-consuming to draw it for the purpose of recording this. So I went ahead and traced it, and this is my picture that I've done, and it's just on a 9x12. And so I've got really good lines and everything in this. The first thing that I want to do, mask out the really white areas in here. I've got just a ton of them, and I really don't want to lose that. And so I'm going to mask those out using masking fluid. And I use PBO drawing gum. And these are the tools that I use. I use a fountain pen with the little nib, metal nib on it, and that works really good for really small areas. And then I also use embossing and stylus, is what they call them, and it's by Royal and Langnickel. And they are fabulous because I can clean them off really good. I used to use a paintbrush where you have to dip it in dishwashing liquid, and then you have to keep rinsing, and it's just a pain. So I use these, and they are metal tips, and you can see the balls on each end. They're all different sizes. They come 3 to a pack. They're really cheap to buy online, like $5. Or you can buy them at Hobby Lobby or Michael Crafts or something like that. But you just take a little paper towel and pull the masking off, and that's done. That's all the cleanup there is. Same thing with the little fountain pen here on that metal nib. I take the masking fluid and I put it in an old lid. And then I close my masking fluid back up so that I don't have it dry out on me. Because, you know, it's not very cheap. So I'm just going to follow along on this where I've got really white edges. So like in here, which would be impossible for me to try and keep clear from paints. So I'm just going to quickly do these. And if you put a little bit of pressure down, it spreads those prongs out on the nib so that you can do it a little bit faster and cover more area. So while I do this, just hang with me here. And if I get buildup on there, just take this, clean it off, I'm good. So much easier than using a paintbrush and then having to worry about whether you're going to ruin it or not. So I think what I'll do, you see what I'm doing. I'll show you how to use these nibs or these stylus. I just dip it in, it gets on the tip, and then I can spread it just as easily with this. I go back into where I've first put it down where there's more masking fluid there, and then I can kind of spread it. But then to clean it, once again, that's it. So very easy. I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go ahead and finish masking the areas. It's kind of like leaf by leaf or petal by petal. So I need to concentrate to do that. And so I'll turn this off and I'll catch you back in just a few minutes. Okay, I have got everything that I want masked out, masked out. That's what all these gray lines are. I am going to decide what colors I'm going to use. In my mind, I've already kind of got it decided what I'm going to use. So while this is drying, I will just start playing with colors on here. And I know I definitely want to use permanent rose because I love this pink. But if you take that, and you can either mix it with cobalt blue to get kind of a lilac color, or you can mix it with manganese blue. You can't see that very well, can you? Manganese blue, you'll get another lavenderish color. And these lean more towards a purplish pink than they do a baby pink. I had these in my yard in my last house, and they were my favorite flower. So I can put that in and just let it mix in there and see what kind of a lilac color I want, and that's definitely too strong. So I'm going to take just a little bit of permanent rose, thin it with water so that it's really light, and then take a little bit of cobalt, and that's almost too light as well. And that's a good color right there. Can you see this? Okay. That's a pretty good color. But what I want to do is down here in the shaded area, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow down in there because I want that to kind of glow from within. So what I'll do is then on my paper, there's the stamens in there, so I will take and put a wash of yellow on this, just so that that's my base then for that inner glow that I'll be working towards. Okay, so I'm going to use, well, let's try a little bit of cobalt pink again. Actually, it's permanent rose, excuse me, permanent rose. Permanent rose. I get talking and I don't think, sorry. And try a little bit of the manganese and see what color we get. Ooh, I like that one too. So I think what I'll do then, I like both those. You see those pretty good there? What I'll do, where's my pencil? I'm going to use these this one, which was the Cobalt and Permanent Rose. And I'll use those for my light outside edges, outside petals. So over here where all the light is. And in this, which was Manganese Blue and Permanent Rose, I'll use that for the shaded side of my flower. So this inside area. And I think if I put the yellow down first and then I paint this over it, the yellow will be dry, and then I'll put this over it, it will give me that glow that I want to work towards. So this will be my shaded side colors. Okay, masking is all dry. And that went on pretty fast because I didn't want to do a whole lot. So I'm going to, let's see, first of all, I think I'll knock back this penciling just a little bit so that when you paint yellow over pencil marks, it is almost impossible to get your pencil marks off of there. So I want to knock this back just a tiny bit. I can still see them, but they won't be quite so harsh, I guess is the word. So I'm going to wet that area. And as long as the area is wet and shiny, can you see the shine on there? Yeah, you can. You can see that shine on there. And as long as it's wet, I can go ahead and put yellow in there. Oh, and this is my palette. I can't get it all on the same screen, sorry. I always keep greens over on one side, and I will continually change those greens. Every time I do a painting, I don't clean this side out. I just keep going and putting my greens on this side. I'm going to use New Gamboge, or let's see, that is Hansa Yellow Deep. Hansa Yellow Deep and New Gamboge are about the same color. So this kind of gives me the glow then that I'm looking for. And my palette, by the way, is a porcelain palette, and I absolutely love it. It doesn't stain, it doesn't bubble. You put your paints down in there, it mixes so nicely. I absolutely love this. I think I got this from Jerry's Artorama. I'm not positive. But that's one of the places that I use it. I'm going to, let me put this back over here. I'm going to mix this quite thin, because I don't want it to be a really heavy yellow. And if I decide it needs to be a heavier yellow, then I will add a different layer on there of that. So this is the area I'm looking at. I have to have this sitting here right so I don't get lost on my map here, because I use this as my map because it's easy to do that. Okay, So then I'm going to take and wet this side. Okay, I've got that dry. And so I am going to start my background. And my background will be various colors of green. I also changed the direction of this because I got to looking at this, and if the light's coming down this way, I want this to be in shadow, so my light's going to come from my top right area. You know. Anyway, so I'll just put this, I paint wet and wet on my backgrounds. And then I do some negative painting where I find places for leaves. I may have a couple of leaves like these leaves out here. There's one over here, a couple up here. Everything else is going to be made up. I'm not an exact person. I want it to be fairly realistic, but not so realistic that it looks like I've painted a photograph. I don't do photorealism by any means. I like realistic, but I want it to be pretty loose as well. So actually I'm going to paint or put water right over these leaves as well. And I'm always keeping in mind that my paper has to be wet while I'm working on it so that I don't get blooms. So as long as it's shiny, then I can work on it and not have to worry about it. And my greens. I make my own greens. I do not like tube greens. The only green that I might use is sap green. And then I don't use it alone. I mix it with other colors. So my greens tend to be, so my colors are cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, indigo, manganese, and then my yellows are Hansa Yellow Light, Hansa Yellow Deep, Aurelian, Raw Sienna, Quin Gold. You never can have enough Quin Gold in your palette. I'll start mixing greens. Yeah, I better put this back over here. Start mixing greens. See what I've got in here. This is a mixture of indigo and burnt sienna, I think it was. But I'm going to add some Quin Gold to it. And I do mix this on my palette to start, but then I start putting other colors in while it's still wet. Little Aurelian. And I'm just going to start mixing those. And I'll tell you as I go along what I'm doing. So this is the Aurelian and indigo. I love indigo for my really dark areas of a painting. And as you can see, I'm not putting in a leaf, I'm painting in a background. That's usually how I start. I also try and use a fairly big brush when I'm doing this so that I don't daub. If you use a paintbrush that's little and you try to put this in, all you're going to do is daub it on, and then you don't get that nice smooth flow to it. So I'm going to take and put in some, what color was that? Prussian blue. Go a little bit darker. And I'm just going to do one side at a time. My paper's still wet, so I can still add colors to this. I'm getting some Quin Gold. Put some Quin Gold in there. It's pretty juicy. That's how I like it. Got a little splash in there. A little bit of ultramarine blue. Gives me another green, another shade. One thing that I am huge on are values, and without nice dark values, you will have a very flat painting. So always go as dark as you can, especially around your flowers, so that they really pop. I think I'll put some ultramarine blue in by itself. Mix it up in there. Tilt my board a little bit, let it mix in there. And once this starts drying, then I can start looking for other leaves, my make-believe leaves. I like my colors to mix on the paper more than mixing in my palette. I think it's a little bit more exciting that way. If you get those hard edges around your flowers like they've been outlined, you can soften those. I'll show you when I get to a point like that what I'm talking about. It's because you've flooded the area with too much water, then you've put a color in, and so it goes up to the area that's dry, and that gives you that hard outlined edge. So as I'm doing this, I want to keep the paint going this way, just barely touching up next to it so it doesn't puddle up along there. Smooths out, so see? Different colors in there. Still nice and juicy wet. So I'm going to let that side dry, and I'll go to the other side. Backgrounds are fun. They shouldn't be hard. You shouldn't have to give them a ton of thought. Certainly you got to plan out what you want to do. I love painting flowers, and I love painting backgrounds. I just think they're a lot of fun. And because I'm not an exact person, I don't have to get tied into, oh, I missed that detail. Oh, I missed that leaf, or I missed that whatever it was. I can just sort of go with the flow. The brain will fill in where it needs to. So if you've got a suggestion of a leaf, the brain will say, oh, there's a leaf. And if you've got a couple of leaves in there that are specific to the flower that you're painting, any other leaf that you put in there, your brain will say, oh, yes, that's a peony leaf. Well, at least my brain does. Maybe not everybody's brain is like mine, which is not a bad thing, actually. And so I'll start putting in some of the same colors. If I look at this area, it's much darker over here on this side. Sun's coming down this way. This is all in shadow over here. I've got leaves that are lighter down here. I will definitely put those leaves in as peony leaves. And if I get some others in there, awesome. If they're not exactly a peony, oh well. I'm not going to stress over it. To me, painting flowers is very therapeutic. If I get too stressed over a painting, I like to go back to painting flowers because that's my Zen moment. What I'm doing this one for is to prepare to do for a larger version of this, like big, like maybe a full sheet of watercolor paper, which is 22 by or 22 by 30. So I'll just start putting in some color. I'm going to make this one darker. I have a new camera and I really like it, but I don't have a real wide angle on it. So I can't show unless I get back too far. And if I have to get back too far, then you can't really see what I'm doing as plainly. So I'll just pick it up and move it, and that'll make it easier. I just grabbed some Prussian and put in here. I'll grab some Quin Gold and put in here. Kind of take it out to the other side. I may get a bloom there. That's okay. I can fix it later. You can fix blooms if you get them and you don't want them there. I'm going to put in a little bit of indigo blue. I love that because it's really nice and dark. And it really makes great values. Sometimes it will go a little gray. The only indigo blue that I like is by Winsor & Newton. Daniel Smith, which I use a lot of, but Daniel Smith's indigo is a weird color. And so this one is my favorite. Look at how nice and dark that's getting. Oh, love it. Love it, love it. See, backgrounds aren't hard. Just tilting, letting them mix, mingle, get to know each other. Look how far that painting's gotten in just a short time. So much fun. So look at this. It's really dark down here. So go for more indigo down here. Some nice juicy colors going on here. Really like it. If you get too much color on your outside edge, take a paper towel or tissue and go along the outside edge. That will draw that back a little bit. Sometimes you can get a bloom if you've got color that's sitting on the very edge and it's kind of seeped underneath your paper, and then it starts drying in areas. It can form blooms. So I'm kind of keep that in mind as I do this. That's still pretty wet. Okay. I think I'll pull out some of these flowers, or some of these leaves up here. And when I say pull out, just going to lift some paint out. So I'm looking at these leaves right up here in this area. There's a stem there, these leaves. I'm just going to pull out some color. Dried my brush off. See, I had a stem in here. That was about here. Maybe not. Maybe it went the other direction. That's okay. Maybe a leaf in this area. There's a leaf down here in this area. Okay, I'm going to put you on pause, dry this a little bit, and then I'll be back.